Benchmarks close on a positive note. Realty, auto, FMCG stocks gain the most. Media index closes as the top sectoral laggard. India will play a big part in resolving global crisis situations going ahead. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar tells NDTV Profit in an exclusive interview as Modi 3.0 completes 100 days. Jio Services restored. Mumbai company spokesperson said that broadband and mobile internet users suffered outage due to minor technical issues. Labour Ministry asked food delivery, quick commerce and e-commerce firms to register gig workers on the eShram portal, issues guidelines to ensure workers can access social welfare schemes. Bajaj Housing Finance hits the upper circuit on second day too. PN Gadkari Jewellers closes 5% lower after a stellar listing. Atishi to become the next Delhi Chief Minister after unanimous approval from AAP MLAs, the Education Minister to hold fort till next elections. Supreme Court says no property demolition can be carried out in the country without its permission till the 1st of October, exempts unauthorized construction on public roads and footpaths. Hello and welcome. You're watching Profit 360 on NDTV Profit. I'm your host Himakshi Bahuguna, and along the next half an hour, we'll bring you the latest on the markets as well as national and international news. So markets saw a very flattish trading day. Most of them, the auto stocks came out as the market gainers at the end of the day. From the primary markets, new IPOs, Bajaj Housing Finance saw another strong upswing of 10%. My colleague Neeraj Shah is joining us for a quick market wrap.
Quiet day of trade on Dalal Street today. Not that anything else was anticipated. Every index, large, mid, small, Nifty Bank, Nifty IT, you pick an index, trading absolutely flat in trade. So no price for guessing that there was no much on the index, but the market breadth wasn't the best, and hence if you pull up the advanced decline ratio in favor of the declines almost since the start of the trading day today. Now let's get the heat map of the Nifty 50 on your screen. Even Stevens there actually, maybe a bit more red than green, but not too many losers. The top loser was Tata Motors, 1.3%. And then Eicher, Tata Steel, Coal India, about 1%, Adani Ports, about 1% lower. And that's about it. On the gaining side though, some more pronounced moves. So you had Hero Moto and Bajaj Auto, both of them moving around in trade. Bharti Airtel ended the day nearly at the day's highs. A strength in stocks like NTPC, ONGC, Larsen & Toubro. Some economy-facing names had a bit of a leg up too. But really, there wasn't a trend per se in the large cap end. At the mid cap end of the market, I think you saw some decent moves on the gaining side as well. So let's bring up the BSE 500 winners and losers on your screen, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Century Ply, 11% higher. Blue Dart, BASF, yes, gains. Godrej Agrovet continuing from where it left off yesterday on the edible oil import duty, which benefits Godrej Agrovet for sure. So another 4.5% today. The strength in Varun Beverages after the fall yesterday. Strength in MGL and IGL on the back of the UBS note. On the flip side, stocks like Godfrey Phillips corrected, Biocon corrected, Suzlon corrected, and in stark contrast to what the Inox twins did. So this was interesting. And the new kids on the block before we leave, or before we wrap up, Bajaj Housing Finance, be it PN Gadkari, Tollins Tires. So these three, 5% lower for both of these, but Bajaj Housing yet another day of an upper circuit of 10%. And similarly for Ola Electric, not technically, I mean, okay, Gadkari first, PN Gadkari, 64% up in trade. So very strong showing by this one on listing day. And then Ola Electric, which on the back of a couple of brokerage notes, had a very strong move, up about 10% as well. So sporadic moves, but quiet for the index at large.
Bajaj Housing continues to see gains in today's session after a stellar listing, talking about the post-IPO gains to 154%. But are there some causes of concern for the stock despite the run-up? My colleague Harsh joins us with the bull versus bear look.
Bull versus bear on Bajaj Housing. First off, with regard to growth, there's been very solid growth that Bajaj Housing has seen on its AUM portfolio, 72% CAGR till FY24 in terms of AUM growth compounded annually, and the current growth also continues to stand at 30% plus. Well, the flip side of it, you have a 1 lakh crore book now. So can you continue to sustain that kind of growth? Not so sure. And as the base keeps increasing, that will be tougher to come. That 30% kind of number, not sure if that can sustain. Also, increased competition as penetration continues to increase. But the other focus is definitely profitability. Well, Bajaj Housing has stronger yields due to the top-up loans that they offer, but with it also comes higher risk. As of now, you're not seeing that risk translate, but if that would translate, you could suddenly start to see the bear case on that start to play out. I'll stick to asset quality even on my next point when it comes to construction finance. In terms of growth, construction finance is something that Bajaj Housing will likely lean on to continue to push growth because it's chunkier loans, right? And therefore, that increased reliance will also come at an increased risk. But what Phillip Capital seems to be suggesting is they will grow it only at 8 to 10%. That's what they are building in their numbers. Mind you, Phillip Capital has expected the balance sheet to double in 3 years. So they are also expecting growth at 25% and likely not 30+%, just for context. Last off, with regard to valuations, Phillip Capital has given this a target price of 210, while it is also the most expensive housing financier already. On day one itself, it was the most expensive housing financier. Why is that so though? One of the reasons for that is that the anchor lock-in leaves very little room for liquidity in the stock. The anchor lock-in largely comprises of 4 to 5%. Mind you, the promoters haven't diluted in a big fashion. They continue to own 89% of the company. And therefore, the free float is extremely small. In fact, when you look at the NSE, the number of shares available, or rather demanded by investors, is roughly 2.5 crore shares, whereas there are no sellers on the NSE, at least on this stock at the moment. Also, the bull case, as per Phillip Capital, they have assumed 210 to be the price basis, a price to earnings multiple of 30 times, which is 30 times they've come to basis a 20% discount on one standard deviation higher than Bajaj Finance's price to earnings multiple. And that's what they've really taken as the number. Therefore, that's how this plays out. Just in terms of price to book, here's some context. You look at Aptus, which is probably the second priciest in terms of housing financiers, and Bajaj Housing standing tall, twice of that in terms of price to book valuation. So something to take from all of this, I hope.
Yes, thanks Harsh for that. Now let's look at the day's listing. PN Gadkari Jewellers ended close to 4.5% lower after a stellar debut on the bourses. The company listed at a premium of nearly 74% on its IPO price and debuted at 830 rupees per share. Now, for some market insights, we caught up with Nilesh Shah from Kotak Mahindra AMC for his take on the impact of rate cuts. Now, could a correction in equities play out differently this time around, and will it be lighter than feared? Let's hear what he had to say.
I'm sure you would have seen a Lagan movie where local team defeated English team. We are seeing Lagan playing out in our market every day. First, we saw one day international during COVID time where April, May, June, July, August 20, foreigners came and dumped about 70-80,000 crore. They just wanted to exit, so there was no price limit. And retail investor kept on supporting mutual fund via SIP. And we kept on buying. And finally, foreigners conceded defeat. Then they realized that one day international is not where we can win. So they came to play test match. Between October 21 to June 22, they sold about 250,000 crore worth of equity. Again, retail investor kept on supporting us. Don't worry, we are sending our SIP money. Just keep on investing in India growth story. Eventually, foreigners tired out and then they withdrew from test match. Then they realized that we can't win against retail investors and mutual funds. in one day or in test match. So let's come and play T20. So on the election result day, they came to play T20, and one single day they sold more than 20,000 crore. Now this time retail investors said, mutual funds, you move out, we'll give you some money, you can do what you want, but let us play directly. They pumped more than 20,000 crore in a single day to take out all the foreigners selling. Now with this kind of domestic participation, you can very well guess what kind of corrections will come and how swift it will be.
The first 100 days of PM Modi's third term, which began on 9th of June and coincided with his 74th birthday today. During this period, the government has focused on significant infrastructure development and various welfare initiatives. My colleague Vasudha gives us the details of what Home Minister Amit Shah said about the policy decisions made in the last 100 days.
Well, today is an important day for the Modi government. Modi 3.0 finishes 100 days at the helm of power in the country. And to commemorate this, Home Minister Amit Shah and Railways and IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav jointly held a press conference a short while ago. And it was mostly done by Amit Shah. And Amit Shah clearly specified, and he enlisted all the achievements that the Modi government has made in the last 100 days. And he said that many of these schemes that the government has announced in the last few weeks have already been put in process. The tendering process is on because work on these started almost 6 months ago, because the Prime Minister did not want any loss of continuity. He did not want the nation to suffer. So even before the elections, he had actually asked and trained his bureaucrats to continue working so that the governance agenda does not take a backseat. Some of the important takeaways from Amit Shah's press conference today: first of all, of course, there were many questions on Manipur, and the Home Minister has said that the government has come up with a very important roadmap to understand the ethnic violence there. It cannot be equated with terrorism, and it has to be dealt with very sensitively. He said that efforts have been made to control infiltration, to reduce it, and also CRPF has been stationed at strategic security points. He also said that the government is in touch with both the ethnic groups, the Kuki-Zomi groups and the Meitei groups, and it is in talks with them. And the roadmap that the government has come up with, the government is optimistic that it will in some ways solve the problem. Remember, Manipur has been witnessing a spate of violent activities. The violence has escalated in the last few weeks, of course, but Amit Shah did say that the last 3 days have been peaceful, and the government is keeping a check on this. He also said that he has had a long conversation with the Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav on the instances of attempts to derail railway tracks that have been witnessed in the country in the last few weeks. He said that the government will get to the bottom of this. In fact, the NIA, the Railways, Rail Police and the Home Ministry are completely committed to this. That's what he said. He also said that the government under Modi regime will bring in the one nation, one poll, something that the opposition has contested, but the Home Minister today said that it is something that will benefit the country. And he also refused to comment on the Waqf amendment, on the amendments that are slated to happen in the Waqf Act. This is something that the government has proposed. Of course, that bill has been sent to the Joint Committee. He said the Joint Committee will take a call on that. He specifically spoke on the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita and the criminal justice system that got revamped. In fact, on July 1st, the rules were operationalized. He said that within the next 3 years, we can actually see the changes on ground. And once the BNS is completely implemented, India will have the most modern criminal justice system in the world. He also said that over 15 lakh crore projects of worth over 15 lakh crore have been announced in the last 100 days. So the 100 days that the Modi government has seen in the first 2 months have been transformative in nature, and the focus has been on deprived sections of the society and also uplift women and specifically middle class. Two important schemes that he spoke about: Ayushman Bharat getting extended to all 70 plus people of the country, and affordable housing. He said, with about 3 crore housing being approved, he said that this will be a major burden of the shoulders of middle class. So that was Amit Shah enlisting the achievements of the Modi government. Today is an important day. It also happens to be the Prime Minister's birthday, and over the course of the next 1 week, we will see a lot of ministers talking about their sectoral achievements, their ministerial achievements, and this is also one way of the government making it clear that its focus is on governance.
Now let's listen into what Home Minister Amit Shah said about the steps that have been taken to curb ethnic violence in Manipur.
देखिए, जहाँ तक मणिपुर का सवाल है, 100 दिन में हमने जो ये घटनाओं का मूल है, भारत म्यांमार सीमा, इसका फेंसिंग शुरू कर दिया है। 30 किलोमीटर फेंसिंग समाप्त हो चुका है और पूरी 1500 किलोमीटर से ज्यादा जो सीमा है, इसको फेंसिंग करने का बजट भारत सरकार ने अप्रूव कर दिया है। एक नंबर 2, हमने वहां पर स्ट्रेटेजिक जगहों पर सीआरपीएफ को सफलतापूर्वक लॉन्च करने का कार्यक्रम भी समाप्त कर दिया है। नंबर 3, हमने जो घुसपैठ होती थी उसको रोकने के लिए म्यांमार और भारत के बीच में जो आवाजाही का एक समझौता था, उसको भारत की ओर से रद्द कर सिर्फ वीजा के बेस पर ही आ जा सकेंगे, ये कानून भी लाए हैं। नंबर 4, कई सारे सुरक्षा लैप्सिस थे, मतलब छिद्र थे इतनी बड़ी सीमा पर, उसको पूरा करने का काम भी किया गया है।
As the Modi government in its third term completes 100 days, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar spoke about how India will play a big role in resolving global crisis situations. In a conversation with NDTV Network Editor-in-Chief Sanjay Pugalia, he spoke about the slew of upcoming agenda on the Prime Minister's radar.
तो ये तीसरा कार्यकाल जो है, भारत में बहुत प्रगति होगी। आप देखेंगे कि नेशनल डेवलपमेंट की अलग अलग क्षेत्रों में मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि हम काफ़ी कुछ कर पाएंगे। कि अगर हम पिछले 10 साल में इतना इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, इतने एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस हमने खड़े कर रखे हैं, आप कुछ भी आंकड़े देखें, एयरपोर्ट्स की देखें, रेलवे के देखें, रोड्स की देखें, तो ये सब, इसको हम एक किस्म से अगले 5 साल में डबल कर पाएंगे। तो मेरे मन में तो है कि हर देश जो है, हर कार्यकाल जो है, वो अल्टीमेटली, जो आपने कहा कि आप डिफ़ाइन इसको कैसे करेंगे, मैं तो कहूँगा कि ये हम नेशनल डेवलपमेंट के माध्यम से डिफ़ाइन करेंगे। परंतु मैं ये भी कहूँगा कि क्योंकि अभी जो है दुनिया में मोदी जी जो हैं, खासकर डेमोक्रेटिक वर्ल्ड में एक किस्म से सबसे सीनियर या सबसे सीनियर में से एक हैं लीडर्स, और उनकी जो है लोग कदर करते हैं, उनकी सोच जो है उस पे लोग बल देते हैं। तो आज जो दुनिया जो है ये युद्ध और संघर्ष और तनाव से जो गूंज रही है, मुझे लगता है कि इसमें भारत को और ख़ासकर प्रधानमंत्री को व्यक्तिगत रूप में उनका एक योगदान हो सकता है। और आप इसका एक किस्म से पहले 100 डेज में आपको थोड़ा बहुत इसमें दिखाई दे रहा है।
Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw was also positive about the first 100 days of Modi 3.0, saying that the attention to infrastructure development will take India's development to new heights. Listen in.
ये देश निर्माण की एक नई भावना है, जिसमें इलेक्शन चाहे चल रहे हो, लेकिन देश के निर्माण के कार्य, देश के विकास के कार्य कहीं न रुके। ऐसी भावना के साथ प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने देश में सभी विभागों को स्पष्ट कहा था कि पूरी तैयारी करें, काम चलता रहे, और इसीलिए 100 दिन में बड़े महत्वपूर्ण फैसले लिए जा चुके हैं। और इन महत्वपूर्ण फैसलों का देश के विकास में बहुत बड़ा योगदान रहेगा। 15 लाख करोड़ के टोटल प्रोजेक्ट सैंक्शन हुए हैं। इसमें इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हो, किसानों के लिए, रिसर्च के लिए, बायोटेक्नोलॉजी के लिए, करीब करीब हर फील्ड में बड़े फैसले लिए गए। अगर मैं रेलवे की बात करूं तो रेलवे में इन 100 दिनों में 12 नए प्रोजेक्ट, जिसमें 11 न्यू लाइन्स है, जो कई आदिवासी क्षेत्रों से गुजरने वाली न्यू लाइन्स है, और एक मल्टी ट्रैकिंग का प्रोजेक्ट, कुल मिला के 1300 किलोमीटर के प्रोजेक्ट 50,000 करोड़ रुपए के अनुमान से सैंक्शन हुए हैं। 10,000 जनरल कोच बनाने का सैंक्शन हुआ है। 108 गाड़ियों में जनरल कोच की संख्या बढ़ी है। 16 नई वंदे भारत ट्रेन्स लॉन्च हो चुकी है। इसमें से पहली 20 कोच वाली ट्रेन भी लॉन्च हुई है। नमो भारत रैपिड रेल, ये बहुत ही एक रेवोल्यूशनरी ट्रेन है। उसका पहली ट्रेन कल माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने उद्घाटन किया उसका। ये ट्रेन दो शहर जो कि आसपास बसे हो, 100, 150, 200 किलोमीटर के गैप में हो, उनके बीच में एक मेट्रो की तरह सर्विस देगी, रैपिड रेल की तरह सर्विस देगी। जैसे मेरठ से दिल्ली की रैपिड रेल है, वैसे ही ये पहली ट्रेन चालू हुई कल भुज।
Let's also listen to the Road Minister Nitin Gadkari talking about the role of his ministry in making India's infrastructure meet the international standards.
देखिए, आखिर किसको कौन सा विभाग देना, ये प्रधानमंत्री जी का अधिकार होता है और उन्होंने मुझे ये जो कार्य करने का मौका दिया है उसका श्रेय उन्हीं को है। और उनके नेतृत्व में इस देश में रोड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में मुझे काम करने का जो अवसर मिला है, ये मेरे लिए बहुत मेरे भाग्य का विषय है। और मैं लगातार देश के लिए ट्रांसपोर्ट सेक्टर में, रोड सेक्टर में अल्टरनेटिव फ्यूल, बायो फ्यूल, रोड एक्सीडेंट को कम करना और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को कैसे विकसित करना इंटरनेशनल स्टैंडर्ड के हिसाब से, इसकी कोशिश करते रहता हूँ। और मुझे ये सबसे ज़्यादा मौका मिला ये आप जैसे लोगों की शुभकामना है और आशीर्वाद भी इसके लिए।
मैं तो महाराष्ट्र से शुरू करता हूँ, वहाँ भी आप पब्लिक वर्क्स डिपार्टमेंट देख रहे थे, वहाँ की भी तमाम सड़कों का रिनोवेशन जो हुआ, कायाकल्प जो हुआ वो आपके टेन्योर में हुआ। उसके बाद वो जो सक्सेस स्टोरी आप लेकर दिल्ली आए और दिल्ली में भी आपको वैसा ही काम मिला। लेकिन एक चीज़ जानना चाहूँगा, पिछले 2 टेन्योर जो थे वो पूर्ण बहुमत की सरकार के थे, इस बार पूर्ण बहुमत नहीं है, इस बार सहयोगियों के साथ चल रही है। कोई अंतर देखते हैं कामकाज के तरीके में?
मुझे कोई अंतर नहीं लगता। हमको पूरी तरह हमारी मित्र पार्टी जो है उनका सपोर्ट भी है और सरकार उसी गति से काम कर रही है। किंबोना पहले 10 साल के अनुभव के आधार पर मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में हमारी ट्रेन की स्पीड, रफ्तार, अब बुलेट ट्रेन की स्पीड हुई है और अच्छे गति से काम कर रही है।
Services of Jio Mobility and Jio Broadband have now been restored. The users experienced widespread connectivity problems where they were unable to access mobile internet. They also had encountered frequent call drops. My colleague Vishwanath joins in with the detailed report.
Users of Jio Mobility as well as Jio Broadband have reported severe service outages over the course of the day across Mumbai. Now what we know so far is that services across Jio's mobile services as well as its broadband internet services have seen some disruptions with users complaining that they are unable to access the internet on their phones or on their broadband network at this point in time. So far, queries that have been mailed to Jio have not been responded to. However, users across Twitter have been posting their complaints online, trying to get the attention of the company. Currently, according to Down Detector, which is a service outage tracking website, there were significantly large number of complaints happening across India as of Tuesday. We are still trying to find out the reasons behind the service outage, but as things stand, users are unable to access the internet.
Now, in a big development for India's gig workers, the Ministry of Labour and Employment has directed food delivery aggregators, quick commerce and e-commerce firms to register their gig workers on eShram portal. The rationale behind this is to ensure that the gig workers receive proper access to social welfare schemes, while aggregators will be responsible for providing an accurate and updated database of their employees. Wholesale inflation has hit a 4-month low in August, rising by 1.31% year-on-year, compared to a 2.04% increase in July. On a month-to-month basis, the index dipped by 0.45%, mainly due to a decline in food prices. The rise in inflation was slightly below expectations, as per the Bloomberg poll of economists had predicted that a 1.8% increase Now my colleague Pallavi breaks down the numbers for us. Pallavi, over to you.
Figures for India's merchandise trade data were published a short while back. Now, in absolute terms, merchandise trade deficit has widened to a 10-month high of $29.65 billion. That's for the month of August, and that's compared to a trade deficit of $23.5 billion that we had seen in July. Now, August merchandise exports fell 9.3% on an annual basis to $34.7 billion, while imports actually saw a rise of 3.3% on an annual basis to $64.4 billion. Now, Commerce Secretary Sunil Barthwal said that given the current global circumstances, exports continue to remain a huge challenge. He cited concerns of a recession that's possible in the United States and slower growth that we are seeing in various parts of the world, including in China and in Europe. He also said that transportation costs also continue to see disruptions because of the Suez Canal diversion. However, non-gems and jewelry and non-petroleum exports continue to see a positive uptick, he said. He also added that globally, given the dark clouds, India continues to remain a bright spot, and the Ministry of Commerce continues to receive inquiries regarding FTAs with India. Now, in the latest figures, petroleum products have seen a hit because of prices, while gems and jewelry are seeing an extraneous impact. Rice has been impacted because of food security policies, and in all, exporters are doing relatively well given the global scenario. That's according to the commentary coming in from the Commerce Ministry. Now, earlier today morning, we also saw data for wholesale inflation that came in. Wholesale inflation actually came in a 4-month low for the month of August. It rose by 1.3% for August. That's compared to 2.04% that we had seen in July. On a sequential basis, the index declined by about 0.5%, and this was led by the fuel and food index. This was slightly lower than was being expected. A Bloomberg poll of economists had forecast wholesale inflation to come in at 1.8% for August. Let's also have a quick look at some of the key internals there. Inflation in manufactured products, that constitutes the largest component of the index, rose 1.2%. That's compared to a rise of 1.6% we'd seen in July. Primary article inflation stood at 2.4%. That's compared to 3.1% we'd seen in the previous month. Inflation in food articles, that's a subcomponent of primary articles, recorded a rise of 3.1% in August, and that's compared to a rise of 3.5% in July. Within that component, vegetable inflation actually fell by about 10% in August, and that's after a fall of about 9% that we had seen for the month of July. We'd also seen figures for retail inflation come in last week, and retail inflation had come in at about 3.65% for the month of August, but that was largely led by the base effect, and it is expected to see somewhat of an uptick in the ongoing month, which means that the RBI might choose to look through this decline in inflation.
Delhi's political landscape is set for a major shift as Aam Aadmi Party chief Arvind Kejriwal has proposed Atishi Singh as the next chief minister. The 43-year-old minister's name was put forward at a meeting of the party's legislative wing, where AAP lawmakers reportedly stood in full support of the decision after Kejriwal's endorsement.
मैं एक सामान्य परिवार से आती हूँ। शायद किसी और पार्टी में होती तो चुनाव की टिकट भी नहीं मिलती, लेकिन अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ने मुझ पर भरोसा किया, मुझे विधायक बनाया, मुझे मंत्री बनाया और आज मुख्यमंत्री बनने की जिम्मेदारी दी है। मैं खुश हूँ कि अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ने मुझ पर इतना भरोसा किया है, लेकिन जितना सुख आज मेरे मन में है, आज उससे बहुत ज़्यादा दुख भी मेरे मन में है। दुख इसलिए कि दिल्ली के लोकप्रिय मुख्यमंत्री मेरे बड़े भाई अरविंद केजरीवाल जी आज इस्तीफा दे रहे हैं।
That's all the time we had on this edition of Profit 360, but stay tuned to NDTV Profit for more fresh news and updates.